Johnny Acres, gas-free St. Lucia. Tune in on 95.9 FM or online at revupslu.com. Call the studio at 572-9710 or WhatsApp 287-0971. Call the office at 572-0383 or 572-0215. Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Our drive is brought to you the compliments of Rambali's Funeral Parlor.
In moments of loss, finding comfort and support is essential. At Rambali's Funeral Parlor, we understand that every life is unique, and honoring that life is our mission. Our dedicated team is here to guide you through every step, offering personalized services that reflect the cherished memories of your loved one. From traditional funerals to modern celebrations of life, we provide a range of options tailored to your family's wishes. Whether it's a simple service or an elaborate tribute, we ensure every detail is handled with care. Let us help you create a meaningful farewell, honoring the legacy of your loved one. To learn more about our services, call 758-452-2021 Castries, 758-454-9239 Viewfort. Visit us at www.rambalisfuneral.com. Rambali's Funeral Parlor, where memories are cherished and love is everlasting.
Hello there, good morning, good afternoon, good night to our listeners and to our viewers in St. Lucia and across the globe, especially those of you who are checking us out on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on X. Welcome to Hard Drive. And today we have a very special edition of Hard Drive because in studio with me is my very good friend and comrade in arms, former independent candidate for ancillary candidates, Mr. Elwin St. Rose. Mr. St. Rose, it is always a pleasure seeing you and having you as our special guest here on Rev-Up.
It is always better seeing you, my friend. It's always a joy, such a pleasure. I enjoy our times together, where we come together and we discuss and we put ideas and issues out there. With the view that there will be some kind of reflection made on them.
Yes. And again, I just want to commend you on the series that you had, the public service announcements.
Yes, sir.
These were excellent. Well done. The general public received them well, and even we had the opposition in studio. We also had government ministers in studio, all saying that they liked these programs. I kid you not. Okay, if that wasn't so, I wouldn't say it.
Oh, I know.
So there were no complaints or anything like that, because I think anybody, who's just fair would realize this is middle of the road. Okay, it's not playing politics or anything like that.
Leadership is not a political thing. Democracy is not a political thing. Challenging our people to be more discreet with how they engage each other during the political season, especially, that's not political. That's civics, if anything. And by the way, it is my intention to continue now that the elections are now over.
I'll hold you to that.
Of course.
All right, because these days with modern technology, just a phone.
Yes.
Just a phone.
Yes.
All right, and you say, okay, send that to Andre.
Yes.
And we're good to go.
We will do a whole lot more of it in the days and months ahead.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that, Mr. St. Rose.
It's part of educating our people and helping our people understand issues. Not that they don't know certain things, but sometimes they have not thought of certain things. It's not consciously and actively included in their awareness, and they have never thought of it, but they have knowledge of it. They are aware that thing is there, but when you put it together in a coherent way, they say, oh wow, we need to do better here.
So, just in case you're wondering why Mr. St. Rose is the one co-hosting today, yes, because we spoke yesterday and we decided to come in and to sort of give us an analysis, because, Mr. St. Rose, you're much better placed than I am, much better placed than a lot of other people, to give you analysis of what actually transpired. Now, let me just give you my little analysis, if I may, okay? And two things that signaled to me that the Labour Party would have won the election. Okay? There was a video making the rounds, And that video was showing, I think, some Ave Maria school children.
Yes.
It looked like there was some march or something that the Labour Party had organized. It seems that way to me. I'm not too sure because there were comments underneath the video, and clearly these were people who were not pleased about what had happened.
Sure.
And maybe they were commenting from a political point of view and probably being biased in their opinion and so on. But nonetheless, I don't know if you saw that video.
I saw it.
Good. And those children, right, were jumping and screaming waving and saying, SLP, 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 SLP. When I saw that, I shared that with my friends and I said, you know something, this is the sign, as to what is going to happen there. Because you see, children, you see if a child likes a song, you know that song is a hit.
Yeah.
Because kids are just so innocent. That's just the way that they are. And that's why Jesus Christ said, the kingdom belongs to such as these. They're just so innocent. Yeah. And when you see a child like something, if a child likes you, there are times, Mr. Elwin, you'd say, for example, you'd be with, there's some person you don't even know, and they have a baby on them, okay? And that baby's eyes would meet yours, and the baby would smile. Yeah. Because the baby's feeling a vibe coming from you. Yeah. Right? Even animals like dogs, and for example, you'd be passing there, you passing, and they don't have an issue with you, Some other individual will pass by, and boy, they're ready to cheer you up. You understand? So when children react that way, that's for me. I remember I said, boy, it looks as though this is where this thing is going, because the fact that to me, they didn't look like they were coerced to do anything, or not just coerced, even coaxed to do anything like that. So that was coming from the heart, genuine. So that was the first one for me. And last night when I was watching the actual results of the elections, by the time it was like, after 10, I already saw it was going. I said to myself, wow, let me go and sleep. Yeah. I'll read the rest in the morning, which is exactly when I came in this morning. I saw it. I said, okay, I wasn't surprised. Yeah. Now that's just my little layman way of seeing things. But you're more, experienced, if you will, and a lot more intelligent when it comes to those kinds of matters. So tell me, Mr. St. Rose, what do you think happened there last night?
Well, before I...
And by the way, the results were similar to St. Vincent.
Yes.
Except in our case, we had two independents.
It was, yeah.
Okay? But you only had in the case of Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, he was the only one who retained his seat. Out of, I think the legislature there is 15.
Yes.
15, right? And of course, sour grapes right away. He was just talking about the party unraveling, and I don't think he even congratulated Mr. Godwin Friday. I don't think he even done that. Sour grapes and so on. Nonetheless, so
before I do that, I will answer the question. But before I do, I want to extend my congratulations to the St. Lucia Labour Party, to the Prime Minister-elect, Philip J. Pierre, to the members of Parliament-elect all around the island, and the voters of the St. Lucia Labour Party. I want to extend my congratulations to them because it was democracy at work. The people spoke, and the voice of the people. When I was growing up, they had this little thing in the older people used to say, "Voili pep, c'est voir Didier," something to that effect. And so the people spoke. It's a democracy. We respect that. We salute smartly. We do what we have to do, and we move on. I also want to pay tribute to a few people, because you remember, Andre, when I had the opportunity to partner with the St. Lucia Labour Party, I was caricatured, I was called names, I was harassed. But there were some people that doesn't bother me. Afghanistan was worse than that. But there were some people who took a risk, they took a chance. My brothers, for example, Ivan and Martin Daddy Crow and Nicholas. These people were chair flambeau. But I'm their brother. And if there is a penny of influence I have over them, they fell in line even if it was not easy. I have a relative in the Jack Melbourne area. I must shout out to her, Kathy. She put herself out there in support of me from the very beginning. When I wanted to run as a United Workers' Party candidate, she was with me. When I decided this is not working, will never work, I wanted to run as an independent, she was with me. When I decided to partner with the St. Lucia Labour Party, that's when she worked. she worked like crazy. She was with me. And so I wanted to just give a little shout out to these people. And I have a friend who has become a very close friend of mine in Canaries. He was the Green Party candidate in 2021. She contested the elections. And when I met him in Canaries and we engaged and we talked, he decided to join our team as an independent candidate at the time, Avalon, my brother. And I just wanted to shout out to him, thanks. He didn't only come and join us, he brought a number of people with him. Okay, so I wanted to just get that off the air and off my chest and shout out to these people. But
and just one second, as you said about independent candidates, to be honest with you, I don't know, maybe that was ignorance on my part. I was kind of surprised last night when I saw a few other independents I wasn't aware of at all.
Sure.
Were you aware of all those individuals?
No, because you will only be aware of individuals who put themselves out there. And there were independent candidates, and every election cycle you have some independent candidates, almost like a protest vote, who don't campaign, they don't hold meetings, they don't do interviews, they don't talk to the media, but they are out there. I don't think any one of them has an expectation of winning, but they are out there. It makes good. They got over 5,000 votes altogether. But the point is, there were some of them, like you rightly pointed out, I didn't know of at all. Yeah. But there were some that we knew. We knew there were about 11 at a certain point in the season. We knew there were about 11, but they clearly were more than 11 last night. But nobody won. No independent candidate. With the exception of Mr. King and Mr.
Richard Frederick. Yes.
Yeah. So the other candidates who were in three-way races, nobody won. And as a statistics student, I would say, if I had remained an independent candidate, it's possible that I could have pulled it off, but most likely I would not have won either, even if I had gotten a substantial number of votes. So back to the question as to what happened there last night. Last night, the United Workers' Party got a shellacking that is devastating. What happened last night is more than a loss. What happened there last night engendered the political demise of many people. And these individuals most likely will not resurface in the political landscape of St. Lucia. So if you are going to understand last night, you have to see it not just in terms of 16-1, coming from 15-2 to 16-1. So the reigning administration did better this time around than they did the last time. And you must ask yourself, if you are serious about politics or if you know anything about it, how could that have happened? Okay? So what happened there last night is a lesson to politicians, number one. The people are listening to you. The people are hearing what you are saying and what you're not saying. And the people have a day in which they will decide whether you were serious or whether you were a clown. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, what happened yesterday and last night was the people repudiating and rejecting, and I think to some degree punishing the United Workers' Party. And it didn't surprise me, Andre, because very early on, I knew the United Workers' Party would lose. The United Workers' Party, for whatever reason, left policy discussions and began talking about what I would consider nonsense. For example, because I know I will be criticized again, so let me give examples relative to what I mean. The United Workers' Party almost had, at some point in the cycle, they almost had an understanding that when they get up there, they would attack one or two politicians and they would caricature them. They would call them names. We heard the name El Guapo. This one gets up the El Guapo. That's kids in the playground. That doesn't win elections. That would never win for you.
So what was the thinking behind that kind of strategy?
The thinking behind the strategy is that they felt this person had influence with the party, and if they can beat them to the ground, that person would lose. But to me, it's a childish approach, because the party can win without that person. Even if you're successful in giving this person dirty mepui, the party can win with. There are 17 seats in the House. The party can literally win without that one person. So I cannot see any coherent strategy in that, other than stooping too low in making your case. And I think that backfired. The second thing we saw last night is a disconnect between politicians and the people. I don't know, Andre, how closely you followed the politics. I was glued to the politics on both sides. And what I see is a disconnect between a political party and the people it wants to lead. And we kept hearing they'll get 15-2 and 14. So they were just throwing numbers out, pretending that they were in a good place, when in essence they were not. The United Workers' Party, from the time the political season started, has never been in a good place, because they were in reaction mode. For example, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has an education policy that is sound. Let me tell you what I mean. They have an investment from early childhood education. They have an investment when students are about to write CXCs. They are paying for 4 CXCs for parents. And they have a first-generation scholarship program, which is intending to have one person in every household in St. Lucia go to university. That is sound. That's coherent. What did we see on the United Workers' Party side? Oh, Sir Arthur Lewis will be free. That's a policy idea. That's not a policy. And then, if it is a policy, you will tell us how you're going to pay for it, because in a small island developing state like St. Lucia, anytime you increase expenditure, you have to find revenue to balance your budget. Where will the tuition and the fees and the monies that Sir Arthur Lewis generates come from? Nobody told us where it would come from. But instead, they just threw that out there. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre has a policy where he is targeting certain medical conditions and paying for it for all St. Lucians. Mammograms, PSAs, and that kind of thing. What did we see from the United Workers' Party? We will give every St. Lucian $75,000 worth of medical coverage. That's like $13.5 to $15 billion a year. It depends on how the population stands. Well, how would you pay for that? It has to be paid for. You had people saying little things on talk radio and stuff, but it has to be paid for. If it's a Cadillac plan, if it's an open marketplace where all the health insurance companies in St. Lucia, all the insurance companies in St. Lucia will say, I'm going to cover 20,000 or whatever, you still have to pay for it. Even if you are not going to pay 15 billion with a B dollars a year, you have to pay the premium. How much is the premium? Nobody told us. How is the process of coverage going to work? Nobody told us. So you knew that was almost desperate ideas being thrown out there. And all of us knew that that would not work, that would not counter. It's amazing to me, Andre, that a political party this old, over 60 years old, had 4.5 years to respond to a loss. Listen to what I'm saying to you carefully. A political party that is 60 plus years old had 4.5 years to respond to a landslide loss. They had 4.5 years earlier, and instead of doing better, they did worse. They didn't win one seat. It was 15-2. It wasn't 14-3 or 13-4. It's 16-1. 4.5 years later, where you strategize, where you meet, where you do your post-analysis as to why did we lose? I'm back in 2021. In 2021, the first question any person with a political IQ of 25 had to ask, why did we lose? Once you have done a thorough evaluation and analysis as to why you lost the elections, it was time to put a strategy together. Even if you didn't win 9 seats, but you would at least win 8 or 7 or 6 or 5 or whatever. That was not done.
Just one question.
Yes.
How does a party find out where they went wrong? Because you obviously can't go to every voter to say, why didn't you vote for me? What happened?
Sure.
Right? And I would imagine that would have to be an internal gathering of minds and trying to put it together as to what could have gone wrong that would have caused us to have lost the last time, which was 15-2.
Yes.
Right? So how does a party arrive at a sound reason as to why they lost?
It's easy. It's not difficult. You have to have a meeting of the minds, your stalwarts, your candidates, because don't forget, Andre, every constituency is local. You have to win Mico South and then Mico North and Denry South, and everybody has to win their constituency. So the people who run, they have ideas. Okay? Now we're talking about an aggregate here. They have ideas. The people who run have ideas. Secondly, the stalwarts of the party who have been doing that for a long time, they have ideas. The strategists, your political strategists, your chairpersons, your executives, they have ideas. So you bring those together to get the plurality of ideas and thought.
When you say ideas, meaning as to why we lost?
Why we lost.
Okay.
Why we lost. Okay? And then don't be afraid. The people who didn't vote for you know why they didn't vote for you. You don't leave them out. It's almost like when you put in a strategic plan together. You talk to all your major stakeholders. The people who voted against you know why they did. Even better than you, your strategists, and your stalwarts. So guess what you do? You hire a company. You hire a polling company or whoever to find out from the people. Go and do a survey for us. Pay the 15,000 or the 100,000, because if you are serious about politics, you have to be serious about politics. And let me take a moment to say here, Andre, politics is for adults. That's not for children. What we have on all these talk shows are people who pretend to know politics and they know nothing. They think they're going to win because they say so. You don't win because you say so. You win with planning and strategy and execution. That's what you do if you want to know why you lost the election. And then don't be afraid of the data. Take the data, deal with the data, and develop your strategic plan for the next cycle around the data. That's what you have to do.
So it's obvious that wasn't done.
Well, if it was done, it was not shared. And if it was not shared, that means it probably was embarrassing.
Because we heard conjecture on the part of certain members of the United Workers' Party as to why they would have lost. I know for sure they've been on this radio station. I've asked some, and they all tell you what they think. But of course, as you said, it doesn't mean that they are correct.
It has to be more scientific than that.
Yes, not how you feel.
Your gut can guide you on some things. But if my head is hurting me every day of the week, I'm not going with my gut. I'm going to see a neurologist. I'm going to take a scan to tell me what's happening there in my cranium. So the idea that you can just speculate as to why you lost, that's not good enough for the 21st century. And with that approach, you're not going to win an election.
Would you care to speculate as to why they had lost 15-2? Any idea that you may have had?
Well, it's going to be speculation because I don't have data in front of me. I think a number of things happened. So let's get background and context for it. On the night of 2016, On the night of the election in 2016, when Dr. Kenny Anthony was not able to lead his party to victory, what did he do? He stepped down that night. That's a leader. I don't care who likes it and who doesn't. That's a leader. He couldn't lead to the party to victory because, Andre, the only thing that is important about politics is winning and governing. You cannot govern if you don't win. And if you don't win, your policy ideas will remain policy ideas. You can have the best idea in the world on what to do for St. Lucia, but if you don't win, that's what it remains, an idea in your head. You have to win for your ideas to become policy. And so
you said Dr. Anthony resigned.
Dr. Anthony resigned. He stepped down. What did that do? What that did is that gave the party a chance to choose new blood, new leadership, new perspective, and that's what they did in 2021. And that new leadership was able to lead the party to 15-2. So let me go back to the original question. Why do I think they lost? I think they lost because I think they're just lousy. I'm serious. I think they're lousy. I think the United Workers' Party since 2021 has become very, very lousy.
So explain, when you say lousy, what do you mean?
Getting involved in Mapwe politics. Nobody in St. Lucia saw Sir John do that. Getting involved in Mapwe politics, calling other candidates of the other party names. I mean, your people can do that. I mean, politics can get very feisty, so your people, but you should never do that. As a leader, as a respectable person, as a statesman, you don't do that. You engage substance, not form. And I think the party between I need to be fair. I think COVID was a factor as well. I think COVID was a factor in the loss. But I don't think it was the only factor. Because generally speaking, the United Workers' Party navigated the country through COVID. And they should have been rewarded for that. So the question is, why were they not rewarded? Andre, in politics, you have to make the case. You have to make the case as to why you should be there. And you have to make the case why somebody else should not be there. Let me just explain that. In 2021, the United Workers' Party should have made the case as to why it had earned the right to serve for another 5 years. They didn't do that. In 2025, they should have made the case why the Philip JP administration was not good for St. Lucia, and they didn't do that. Maybe they couldn't. Because here's what I'll tell you. The Philip JP administration is good for St. Lucia. And while, Andre, I'm going to say this, and we know what the criticisms will be. When you are too close to a thing, you usually don't see how bad it is. It is when you step out of it, when you step back from it. It's like a man and a wife, a husband and a wife. And one of them is being literally abused, but they think it's okay because they are in it. Once they step out of it to see what life is, and oh my God, all of this is available to me, then they begin to see how bad it was when they were on the inside. When you are too close to something, you don't see it. So I think the United Workers' Party in both 2021 and 2025 refused to address things that have political consequence. And they paid for it both times in a shellacking. The two worst defeats in St. Lucian political history is going to reside permanently at the doorstep of leader Alan Chasney.
Explain.
Well, one, when the Labour Party got in power in 2021, during that term, coming down to last night, you heard all kinds of things about Prime Minister Pierre, he's not bright, he cannot lead, he's this. I mean, all kinds of, even sometimes we bordered on disrespect, because my position, Andre, is whoever is the Prime Minister of St. Lucia is my Prime Minister. Just my Prime Minister. So you will not see me posting things, that's not my Prime Minister. That's what kids do. The reality is that's the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, and as a St. Lucian, that's my Prime Minister. We heard all these things. He beat you once. The guy who supposedly doesn't have any capability beat you once. Shouldn't you amass all your resources to make sure it never happens again? Then he beats you twice consecutively. And he beats you worse the second time than the first time. Who is incompetent? He is? You must be kidding me. He's not incompetent. He is competent enough to give you a shellacking, to beat you like a drum. He's not the one that's incompetent. If you say he is the one that's incompetent, then you have lost your ability for critical and objective analysis. If he's that bad, he cannot beat you twice. And the reason why this will go down into history is that the person they said who was not competent beat them twice. And it's not just beat, Andre. 9-8 would be a beating. 15-2 and 16-1. He destroyed you. And when I say it's going to be on the doorstep of the leader of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Alan Chasney, he cannot forget that. That is etched now in his political legacy. He can never shake it. It is history, and it is etched.
You spoke earlier about a disconnect between the United Workers' Party and the people. Can you take us a little deeper into that?
Yeah. In politics, and Andre, I've been following politics for a long time, both in St. Lucia and abroad. In politics, talk does not win elections. Strategy does. If you don't have a strategy that the people understand how it benefits them, you're going to lose every time. Because people don't vote for highfalutin things. They vote for bread and butter most of the times. They want to know they can buy food to take care of the kids. They want to know they can send their kids to school. They want to know they can pay for the CXCs. They want to know they can pay for childcare so they can go to work. They want to know that those who are already retired are no longer getting $250 a month, but at least $500. Human dignity and decency we are talking about. All these things Prime Minister Pierre did. So when I talk about a disconnect between politicians and the people, it was very, very absolutely clear to me very early that the United Workers' Party, in its bid to win, to have a win in 2025 relative to 2021, was scratching where it was not itching. Andre, there was nothing the party put forth except those broad policy ideas that met the people's needs, their felt needs. Nothing. And you don't have to listen to me. Go back and look at clips, look at the tapes. What did the United Workers' Party put forward that could benefit the people of St. Lucia in a way that was better than how Prime Minister Philip JP and his administration were doing?
Well, they did speak about reducing the price of fuel, petrol. They spoke about that. They spoke about the insurance for health insurance for every St. Lucian, right? And a few other things that they thought. They even brought up the issue of a tax that's being paid or being levied upon the people in the south where Wasco is concerned, that they will remove all those things. These things sounded good to me.
Well, they may have sounded good to you, but there is a difference between theorizing and actualizing. Let's take the 2.5%, for example. I don't know that 2.5% is not good policy. Because, again, as a small island developing state, we may have to pay a little bit more to have certain benefits. And if you take away the 2.5%, which is part of the bill of expenditure, also known as the budget. Where will the revenue from that 2.5% come from to balance the budget? So if you say you are going to remove it, you have to tell us why, and that's what good policy is. You have to tell us why. What problem is it solving? How will you get it? How will you get the equivalent revenue back? And what will the process be like? Because if you study public administration, if you study government and public policy, you will discover that government has different pockets of money. They move funds, they maneuver money in order to meet the financial demands and challenges of the organization. But there was none of that discussion. Like I said to you, the 75% health insurance, that's a policy idea. That's not a policy, because you have not yet told us how you're going to pay for it, which is perhaps the most important thing. Again, we go back to the fact that we are a small island developing state. We don't have money in the billions sitting anywhere. So we have to pay for the services we have. Government has to pay its bills every month. Water, have you imagined all these buildings they are leasing, Andre? Government is leasing the electricity, the water, the rent, the lease, government has bills. We have about 11 to 14,000 civil servants. Government has bills, and those bills have to be paid and paid on time every month. So what if you are going to take money away, you have to say where you will get it, where you will get the money to put it back in. So even if they said that, it didn't resonate with the St. Lucian people. And the people didn't vote on that either. The people voted on what they could see, feel, hear, and experience. And that's what they did last night.
Now, when Mr. Philip J. Pierre was declared now the new leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, I think most of us will agree he was a little shaky at the beginning. Okay? And that's why the criticism about his stammering came, as a result. The way he probably carried himself in certain situations, right? He seemed a little unsure of himself and so on. And after a while, I just started noticing a different Philip J. Pierre, like he had found his niche or something. He found something, and he went in that particular direction, which was to assist and to give and to share and this sort of thing, which St. Lucians hadn't seen that sort of leadership in a long time. What we became accustomed to was more of a heavy-handed sort of thing, right? I close this, I close that, I stop this, I stop that, and all in an effort to save money, and that sort of thing. But he seemed to have gone in a different direction. So what do you think happened to Mr. Pierre? Is it something that is just his nature, or something that maybe he just came to realization that maybe this is where I need to go?
Well, what happened to Mr. Pierre, Prime Minister Pierre, is what should happen to all good leaders. Because, Andre, you are never Prime Minister until you're Prime Minister. Nobody really teaches you. There is mentoring going on. There may be a little bit of succession planning. But you are not Prime Minister until you're Prime Minister. So there is a learning curve for everybody. There was for Sir John, there was for Dr. Anthony, there was for Mr. Chasney. There is a learning curve. When you step, and by the way,
is that developed when you become Prime Minister, or must it be something you're developing while you're waiting to become Prime Minister?
Yeah, both of your ideas are good and true, because there is what we call in management succession planning. If you own a company and you die today, you don't want the company to fall in the ocean because we don't have somebody to lead it. So what you do, you intentionally lead and prepare somebody to lead the organization. When somebody is Prime Minister, we don't have two Prime Ministers at any one time. So when somebody is a Prime Minister, they can mentor, they can help, they can say, this is what we do, this is our budget presentation is done. If you're in the house, you see it, you observe. If you're smart, you take notes and you prepare yourself. But that's different from getting into the position. When you get into the position, Andre, I'm going to tell you, this is not a joke. Leading a nation, even a small island nation like ours, is not a joke. You stay up at night, my friend. Now, I'm not saying that because I know it experientially, but I know it theoretically. You stay up at night. When you are not able to pay the nation's bills, Andre Paul will not get the gray hair for you. You are getting the gray hair even while you are having breakfast. So the point I'm making is that what we saw when Prime Minister Pierre got into the office is what, now some people manage it a little better, but he clearly was trying to find his footing because it was new to him. But 2 years in, what you said there was pure gold. He found his niche, and what that did is that just ballooned his confidence. And confidence is important in sports, it's important in politics. Now, you know, the saints out there will say you are egotistical. Every politician is egotistical, every single one. But because even just to desire the position means that you have to be strong on the inside. Okay, and by the way, ego simply means I. That's what the word means in Greek, ego. Is that okay? So the point I'm trying to make is that every politician believes he or she can lead, but leading is difficult, painful, and sometimes long. And what we saw in Prime Minister Pierre is that he got confidence, which is good in sports, in politics, in everything you do. Even you can recall when you started as a rookie, Andre.
Yes.
You were shaking sometimes, but when you became a veteran and an expert, it became easier. And that's what we saw. We saw an evolution before our very eyes. And I'm not here to make Prime Minister Pierre look like Jesus. No, that's not what I'm doing. We're talking about processes. We're talking about management. We're talking about leadership. And good for him, he had some qualities. He had some leadership qualities that augmented that confidence and that made him the person we saw last night. To whip the UWP the way he did in 2 consecutive elections. One of those qualities he has, Andre, is that the man listens. He listens. I have interacted with him. And I also interacted briefly with Mr. Chasney. He listens.
When you say listens, what do you mean?
In other words, if you are talking to the Prime Minister Pierre, Prime Minister Pierre doesn't have the need, even if he thinks that, to tell you you are wrong or you are incorrect. He listens to you carefully. He may make a remark of validation, affirmation, or he may not. But he listens to everything you say to him. He doesn't talk over you. Well, at least in my experience, he doesn't talk over you. He listens to you. So when I say he listens, he does not believe that he has to be at every forum, every meeting, the smartest man in the room. He is what all of us have seen him to be, a humble man, a very humble man. And everybody says that about him. The people who know him, go to the Louise building and talk to the people who know him. Everybody believes he's a humble man, and he is. Andre, I'll tell you one thing. When we talk about political brilliance and we talk about political intelligence, I said it to you before and I'm going to say it again. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre did not have to talk with me. He got 16 seats last night. I was not on the ballot. He didn't have to talk to me. But guess what? He did. You know why? Because he is a brilliant, astute politician. Let the talk go out. That is the order, he's slow. He is a brilliant politician, and last night showed it. He didn't have to talk to me, but he did. He didn't have to talk to a lot of people, but he did. He did not have to say in public and in private, our party is inclusive, we have room for all of you. One of the things that happened to the United Workers' Party while we are on that is that they were happy to say that people are disgruntled, people are mad, people are flambeau rejects. Andre, you and I talked about that before. Really? A flambeau reject is also known as a vote. First of all, flambeau reject should never come out of your mouth. If you want to consolidate, If you want to gain, if you want to add to, you don't call people that name. Because when you call me a flambeau reject, I'm going to vote for the Labour Party. And you've just lost 1 vote. And if I have 4 brothers, you just lost 5. And if all of us have a wife, you just lost 10. It's a multiplier effect. So the idea that Prime Minister Pierre was able to say, our tent is big, our umbrella is large, come on over. If you feel you have been disrespected, if they call you names, if they disrespect, come on over. That was brilliant. Andre, the United Workers' Party expected to win this election. You have guys like a former Speaker of the House. You have a politician in Denry South, Mr. Edmund Estefan, who served for 15 years. You can ignore Centros. You can say he's nothing. Let's ignore him. He's a clown. Okay, you can say whatever you want to say. I don't care. But you have Mr. Estefan who served for 15 years. You don't think he has a base? You treat this person disrespectfully? Disrespectfully? So you are in the business of minimizing people and you expect to win? You're not going to win, Andre. Because a vote, when you lose a vote, you have to get 2 to gain advantage. And you have all these other people, the fiasco in Castries East, the nonsense they did in ancillary canneries that they didn't have to do. They didn't have to do that.
Explain to us, please. What do you mean?
The thing they did with me.
Oh, okay.
The thing they did with me. And Andrew, I'm going to say something to you today that I never said to you or in public before. One of the reasons why they didn't want me around is that in June of 2024, while the party was in a multi-month long of celebrating Philip Martinez, this guy who supposedly deserves a gold medal because he had exposed members of the St. Lucia Labour Party in this CIP scandal pappy show. Okay? I wrote the party on June 16, 2024, and I told them to please corroborate information. This is not a reliable source. And they thought I was too affronting. They thought I was telling them what to do. They thought I was too nosy. They never engaged me. They never noted my concerns to them about the CIP scandal. And for a year, Mr. Dominic Fede and Mr. Spider Montut went everywhere they could have gone to talk about this supposed scandal of international proportion. When Philip Martinez himself went to the court and dropped the case, they said nothing about it. But guess what? They were already warned 6 months prior. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say
yes.
when I say that they were playing games.
But getting back to Mr. Philip J. Pierre, something happened which I said to myself, boy, how, if I were Prime Minister, how would I handle something like that? I'll tell you what I'm referring to. He had to take what I consider to be a tough decision, a couple of tough decisions, where Mr. Joachim Henry is concerned, and also Dr. Virginia Albert Poyet. Okay, I think Mr. Henry is Castries Southeast, and Virginia Albert is Babonneau.
Yes.
And they or he, I don't know, the strategists knew that maybe these 2 constituencies were a little iffy under the leadership of these 2 individuals. And I said to myself, wow, to change them, that took a lot of courage, right? Because, when you have a business, for example, one of the toughest things for any businessman is to fire people and to, tell people, sorry, it's time to go and this sort of thing. And I wondered and asked myself, how was he able to manage something like that and to still keep the relationship going in terms of the friendship and so on, and the camaraderie? And I remember at Tony, my brother, his funeral, I saw the Prime Minister. He was seated next to Stephenson King, and next to Stephenson King was Virginia Albert Poyet. They all sat in the same row.
Same section.
Same section. I said, wow. So that means he must have handled that so well that Miss Poyet didn't feel rejected or anything like that. I mean, I don't know the internal politics of the party. I don't know. But I was just wondering how he was able to pull that off. So that just says, in terms of his leadership skills, he can take the tough decisions as well.
Andre, it is always good when you are a leader and you are a good person. When you are a good person, you have leverage that other people don't have. Let me tell you this. The United Workers' Party spent quite a bit of time criticizing those moves. He's afraid, they said.
Mm-hmm.
He's scared, they said. If he wants to protect the win, which, by the way, all of this is just Papi Show by Timamai, right? That's his business. Run your campaign, let him run his. So if he believed he would win, he would not do that. I mean, the level is almost like the level of a kid, right? But let me tell you the difference. I noted it. In 2021, Dr. Poyot won Babono by 110 votes. In 2025, Mr. John Paul Estefan won it by 1,171 votes. He's stupid. He's really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In 2021, I have that somewhere. In 2021, Mr. Guy Joseph won, not Mr. Guy Joseph, Mr. Joachim Henry won Southeast by 437 votes. In 2025, Lisa won it by 1,112 votes. He's stupid? Andre, I don't know how much of a sports person you are, but I am. I used to follow West Indies cricket forever. I remember when Tony Cozier was begging the West Indies Cricket Board of Control to take a chance on Brian Lara. I remember that. I remember Cozier saying one day, what else must he do? Because Lara had a bad time in being picked. And look at what he became. Every year, when the West Indies is touring or whether they're at home, the West Indies Cricket Board of Control has a decision to make because you have more players than you have slots. So you would have some guys on the reserve list, and then you would have your 11 guys, and so on and so on. And if somebody gets injured, you bring somebody else in. You remember what I said to you earlier, that politics is an adult endeavor? The Prime Minister realized that he needed to strengthen his hand. Andre, that is strategic planning. But you don't do it in a way that is disrespectful to the people who have served, or even the people who want to serve.
Mm-hmm. And that is what I was saying. How was he able to do that? Because, when you tell somebody, I'm sorry, we have to replace you with somebody else, there's the natural feeling of being attacked, being made to seem incompetent, that sort of thing. So he must have some special skills to maneuver this sort of thing to the point where they still remained civil with each other.
Of course. Because Andre, there is an understanding that must be in every human process and interaction, from marriage to parenting to your friends or what. There is a certain understanding there. People know when you are not disrespecting them. If somebody if you have a good 18-year-old, it doesn't matter how you enshroud the insult, they'll know if you're insulting them. Prime Minister J. Pierre does not insult people. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at clips, during the campaign, he said to his team, we are not doing MIPWE politics. Over and over again he said it. The United Workers' Party never said that. That's why people like Estefan in Denry South, people like Elwin Serose in Ancillary Canneries, that's one of the things that motivated us was the insults and the barrage of insult that was coming at us morning, noon, and night on social media. In real life, I was in Mondo a few weeks ago. They're talking to a friend, and somebody's driving on the road. Elwin traitor! Elwin traitor! whom did I take an oath to and violated that oath? When did I betray St. Lucia? Never did. So I'm not a traitor. But you're calling me names for whatever reason, that's on you to decide. We don't even dignify. They literally, with the help of Mr. Fede, they went after my brother Martin Daddy Crow, a guy who was chairman of the Ancillary Canneries branch for 10 years and who brought Mr. Fede into Ancillary Canneries in 2016 against the wishes of the leadership of the party, because they wanted Mr. Herman Gil Francis. My brother as chair wanted Mr. Dominic Fede, and there was not one thing they didn't throw at him because of his desire. But this guy is now demonized in the worst way, absolutely worst way. Everywhere he goes, he's been harassed by people. And during the campaign, I had to tell him, don't answer, because I didn't want escalation for reasons that are important to me. I didn't want escalation, and I didn't want him to be confrontational. So I said to him, and he just took it, and he took it. It hurt his family, it hurt his children, it hurt me as his brother, but we just took it because we were smart enough to know that what we were doing was noble and what we were doing was the right thing. Okay? And so here I am today with all the caricaturing, but here I am today talking with you about what happened last night. Because what happened last night, let me say this before I forget. What happened last night is the hallmark and ultimate expression of board members not doing their work well and hoping that they would have good results. Let me tell you what I mean by that. What I see in the United Workers' Party is that it changed from UWP to CPP, from United Workers' Party to Chasney's political party. That's what I see. Now, I may be wrong, but that's what I see. That's my reality. The executive, the National Council, the stalwarts, when we were complaining about the selection process, not just in Ancillary Canneries, but we had it in Castries Central, we had it in Grozile, we had it in Castries Southeast, we had it in Dennery South, we had it in Mikunoth. When we were complaining, when I was the most vocal, when I was complaining and other people joined and were complaining, even the gentleman in Suffrage, Jimmy Hayes, put a Facebook post on in which he said the process must change and apologies must be issued to the people who were disregarded and disrespected. When we were complaining, all the stalwarts sat there. The executive sat there. The National Council sat there. And no one can convince me that they were not seeing what we were seeing. And they said nothing. They watched the party being hijacked and being destroyed. And nobody said a word of remonstration. Okay? That's on them. Andre, that's on them. There is an ILL. There is an ILL in being part of an organization and watching it go down the drain. But because you are so loyal, because you don't want to be egotistical, because you don't want people to think whatever you don't want them to think, and you watch your organization go down in flames. There are people in St. Lucia last night who didn't get a minute of sleep because they were crying over what happened to the United Workers' Party. But guess what? They were there. They were there and they did nothing. And maybe, let me tell you what, I'm glad this morning they did nothing, because what it did, it gave an opportunity to Philip J. Pierre to lead this country for another 5 years, to have education policy from early childhood to tertiary, to have social policy where our retirees are not going to get $200 anymore a month, but a minimum of $500. He has an economic policy, the youth economy, where young people will get more money to begin their business. And if they continue, Andre, it will be a force multiplier here in St. Lucia. He will continue giving nursing students at Sir Arthur Lewis $2,500 the first year, $2,500 the second year, $5,000 the third year, $10,000 the fourth year. These things are good for St. Lucia. It doesn't matter what party you belong to and what you think. There are things that are good for St. Lucia. And like I told you before, what is good for St. Lucia is good for me. I'm glad they didn't say anything so that these positive policies can continue. But when they are doing the post-mortem, when they are doing the post-analysis, when they are doing the evaluations, they must be blamed for sitting there and doing nothing, watching the party go down in flames. And I'm glad I was not part of that inferno.
I'll just say a final thing on Mr. Philip J. Pierre. Would you agree that the person who seemed to be unsure of himself, a little shaky and this sort of thing, right? After, well, close to 5 years, would you say that Mr. Pierre became the star of the show?
He is. And let me tell you additionally to the observation that is the star of the show. When you look at the numbers, I have them here because I knew I was coming here. And being a bright journalist, you would ask me some questions. Super bright journalist, my friend. Let me give you some data from last night. In 2021, Kenson Kazimi won Grozilet by 2,053 votes. Last night, he won by 4,314. Like I said, Dr. Poyot won Babono by 110. Mr. Estefan won last night by 1,171. In Castries East, Prime Minister Pierre in 2021 won by 2,144 votes. Last night, he won by 2,866. In Castries Central, in 2021, Mr. Richard Frederick won by 535 votes. Last night, he won by 1,069. In Castries South, Mr. Hilaire won in 2021 by 1,429 votes. Last night, he won by 1,709. In Ancillary Canaries, Mr. Girard won 2021 by 165 votes. Last night, he won by 592, an increase of over 300%. In Soufriere, Miss Emma, Auntie Emma, they call her, won by 65 votes. Last night, she won by 180. The point is made. But there is one more I want to highlight to you. In Viewfort North, Mosa won by 646 votes in 2021. Last night, he won by 1,512. And then I have to bring Viewfort South in there. Dr. Kenny Anthony won the seat in 2021 by 1,563 votes. Last night, Mr. Danny Butcher won by 2,419. We are talking about the star of the show. What we see in these numbers is that it's not just the candidates that carried the day, but Mr. Philip J. Pierre was all over those constituencies last night. He was all over. And Andre, I was on the campaign trail in Ancillary and Canaries and other places where the Prime Minister in Miku South, where the Prime Minister was there. And when he was introduced, or when he got on stage, the crowds went crazy. What that said to me is that they, whatever the they represents, that they loved him. Okay? The they loved him. He is beloved, not just by Labour Party supporters, by other people in this country as well. So the data from last night show that his image and likeness was all over this thing.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Dr. Hilaire, Kenson, and of course Richard Frederick, right? I mean, the votes are even, they receive even more votes than the last time. I remember Dr. Hilaire, Kenson Kazime, and Richard Frederick. I mean, they were being constantly attacked by United Workers' Party. Constantly. I mean, this feud, especially the feud between Dr. Hilaire and Mr. Chasney, right? And yet still, the people voted for them in overwhelmingly. How do you explain something like that?
It's easy to explain, Andre. There are some things that win elections and there are some things that don't. Picking a feud with somebody doesn't win elections. You have to prosecute the case against your opponent. And by the way, now you may find this to be strange, but let me tell you. The St. Lucia Labour Party went into last night's election more vulnerable than the United Workers' Party. Let me tell you what I mean. Because when you are an incumbent, you have given your opponent 4.5 years of things. You either missed out, you didn't do well, and they have all the guns aiming at you. It is easier to prosecute a case against an incumbent. Oh, he was there, he didn't do this. He was there, if I were in his place, I would have done that. Because you can find every little thing to make part of that prosecution. But we didn't see that. Because when you helter-skelter, you lose focus. Elections are won with strategy and focus. And the United Workers' Party had neither, and the Labour Party had both.
So, Mr. Elvin, just try to put yourself now in the shoes of the United Workers' Party. Seeing the results of the elections last night, what do you think is happening in that camp right now?
There is a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth. There is a lot of grief, there is a lot of pain, there's a lot of anger, and probably a lot of cussing, okay, going on in the camp, whether it is in public or in private. People are hurt, and are hurt badly, because they believed, and we said that earlier, they believed they would have won, as if believing that will make them win. The leadership let them down. The leadership. This election came down to the tale of two men, Andre. This election came down to Mr. Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister Pierre, able to carry his team. Even those who were the target of the constant attack, his influence, and by the way, that's what good leadership does. Transformational leadership carries people with it. Transactional leadership, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, that doesn't carry the day in 2025. So what's going on in the camp is, where do we go from here? That's what's going on in the camp. But I'm going to be presumptuous and jump ahead of it. There are some people in the political leadership of the United Workers' Party that are done for good. They're just done. They met their political demise last night.
Would you care to say who those are?
Sure. I don't see Mr. Guy Joseph coming back in that. I don't see Mr. Dominic Fede coming back in that. I don't see Mr. Alan Chasney remaining in that.
Even Mr. Chasney?
Yeah. Andre, think about it for a second. During the course of the first term of the St. Lucia Labour Party, they reminded him often in the House. They reminded him, you will never be the Prime Minister of St. Lucia again. You will always sit on that side. Now, during the term, he had Bradley Felix. I don't see Bradley Felix, by the way, coming back into this. I just don't see it. Now, understand, this is my opinion, okay? I don't see Bradley Felix coming back in this. I don't see Dominic Fede coming back in this. I don't see Guy Joseph coming back in this. I don't see Mr. Alan Chasney remaining in this. I remember having a conversation with Mr. Chasney when we had that famous discussion at Coco Palm. And Mr. Chasney said to me, when he informed me that I was not the candidate, he said to me, when the party chose Mr. Dominic Fede as the second deputy leader, they were intending to have him as a leader of the party. And I asked him one question. I said, what if he loses? Sounds kind of ominous, and almost prophetic. I asked him, what if he loses? And last night, he lost. He didn't have to run the seat to be a leader in the party, but that's a different discussion for a different day. He lost twice to a candidate he minimized, he trivialized, he insulted, he accused, all kinds of things. He threatened to take to court. He lost to him twice. The same thing with the political leader. Mr. Alan Chasney talked about Mr. J-Pierre in unflattering terms, but Mr. J-Pierre beat him twice. What do? You must take stock. And Andre, I'm going to say to you again, the defeat last night must reside at the doorstep of Mr. Chasney and all the leaders of the party, all the stalwarts of the party, who had to have seen where this was going and said nothing. They watched the party imploding. Andre, you cannot have so many of your people leaving your organization without taking stock and looking at what is causing them to leave. If you are doing that, you are not serious about winning. And the voters of the United Workers' Party are victims of horrible, horrible, horrible leadership. When you look at the cast, the team that Mr. Chasney put together to contest this election, even going against well-established veterans, you knew it was not a serious endeavor. You knew there were some candidates who were not going anywhere. They were put in there because Mr. Chasney feels that he can control them. And I'm not alone in that observation. Mr. Rufus Bousquet had an interview just about 2 weeks before the election, and he said the same thing. It is obvious to everybody who is looking at this objectively. So you ask yourself, where is the party? Why is the party so much an image of one person? Why? Without the fear of being challenged and contradicted? No. So what we are seeing there is bad leadership from the beginning to the end, from the alpha to the omega. Bad leadership. And it will take the United Workers' Party. You remember what I told you in our last engagement together. Mm-hmm. I said to you, if they lose this election, they will be politically extinct. You remember? Mm-hmm. And I knew they would lose. I suspended my campaign as an independent candidate. I didn't go back to the United Workers' Party and say, please, please take me. I partnered with the St. Lucia Labour Party. Because in life, Andre, in life, there is always a bigger picture than what is immediately in front of you. And I saw it, but I'm not the only one who saw it. Prime Minister Philip J-Pierre saw it too. And like I said to you before, he didn't have to speak to me. And he spoke to me because he saw it. He wanted ancillary canneries to be in the winning column of the of the St. Lucia Labour Party. And guess what? To perfection.
I want you to comment, since we're talking about Mr. Chasney, on his opponent's performance, Ms. Harak. I was a little surprised. I said she put up a real good fight.
She did.
I mean, this is the rep for that constituency. This is a former prime minister and opposition leader, and for her to have put up that fight, I was like, whoa! And she's she's a newcomer.
She's a newcomer to the game.
So I want you to comment on that.
Well, I think she did well, but I think the reason why Mr. Chasney ended up in Mico South is because he believed back then that it was a sure seat. From Soufrière, trying to get to Grosile or whatever the case was, and he ended up in Mico South under the conditions that he ended there. And it is there are two areas of that constituency that are heavily flambeau oriented. There is so proper, where by the way I worked, and Tirocher proper. And that's where he made the inroads on her. But to your point, she did exceedingly great, and there is nothing she has to be ashamed of, nothing she has to be upset about. She did what was possible for her to do under the circumstances, and she did exceptionally well. It's just that she couldn't pull it. She couldn't pull it to the finish line.
Before we end, we have a few minutes left. The last time you were here, you said something about the United Workers' Party, and you said if they lose the elections, you said you see the party imploding. Okay? Do you still feel the same way?
Sure. And my reference point is 1982 St. Lucia Labour Party. What we have here, we have never had it before in our history, where a political party loses an election 15-2 in a 17-member house and 16-1 in a 17-member house. So this is significant. We cannot underestimate nor minimize the importance of this.
And also two consecutive wins. It hasn't been so, I think, in about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
More than 10, 25 years or so.
Oh, okay.
We have not had the same party. The last time it happened was 2001. So 24 years where we never had this. But like you and I know, Andre, records are made to be broken. One day somebody would.
Of course.
It's just that the United Workers' Party didn't think it would be Philip J. Pierre who would stop that trend. But all those of us who were looking at it knew it would end one day, and we knew, we also believe this time was probably the time to do it. So, to the point about how the imploding and the political extinction,
especially the role of the leader of the party.
The role of the leader of the
party. What do you see in terms of how the party will move on? Will they still have him as their leader?
I am not a betting man. If I were, I would bet $1,000 that it doesn't happen.
That what doesn't happen?
That he continues as leader of the party. And this time his resignation will be accepted. Because...
do you think he will resign?
Yeah. As leader of the party, yes, of course. Of course, he doesn't have a choice. He has to. He has to. And it is in a sense sad, but he has to resign. Somebody else will have to take the mantle of the leadership of this party. What do we want the next time? 17-0? I mean, come on. We move from 15-2 to 16-1. The next logical step is 17-0. And so he will, I think he will resign. And he should. He should. In sports, when the coach has a losing season or two losing seasons, the coach is gone. And the same thing is true in politics. You have to let somebody else take the mantle.
Do you see anybody right now who's in a position to do that? Because you mentioned quite a few there. You said they're going to be out from. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're right, but it doesn't. It seems that way. You mentioned Mr. Fede. You mentioned a few others.
Sure.
Right. Who do you see anybody with that sort of potential to lead the United Workers' Party apart from Mr. Chasney?
Well, there is always somebody else somewhere, a lamb in the thicket,
or maybe somebody new.
Somebody new. When organizations want to go forward, there will be a search. There'll be a search. There'll be evaluations. There'll be analyses, and they will choose somebody. Now, the disappointing thing. You remember earlier on I spoke about the team that Mr. Chasney put together?
Yes.
There are three gentlemen, all newcomers, who have what we would call capability and capacity, right? Mr. Titus Preville, who was the candidate in Babono, is you cannot compare him to what I would call the flimsy makers. You have Mr. Favrier in Castries North, who has a nice resume, and then you have Mr. Tommy Desca in Castries South. But here's the sad thing: they all lost.
Yes,
they all lost their bid. So the party will figure that out. I am no longer affiliated to the party, so I don't have a stake in that. But at the end of the day, they will figure it out and they'll find somebody, because there is always somebody else. Now, if they had done good succession planning, it would probably be easier, but that's a discussion for a different day. So what I was going to say to you was in 1982 was the last time when we had a party literally imploding. And from 1982, it was not until Kenny Anthony showed up on the scene, Dr. Kenny Anthony,
Yes.
15 years later. 15 years later. Now, think of the potential of what we're saying here, Andre. This is the second term that the Philippi administration will have in the House. If it takes the party 15 years to rebuild and to go forward, we are quarter century in time. Andre, there is a responsibility that we all have. If I see a house on fire as I walk out of the studio today, whether it is yours or somebody else's, I need to call the fire service. If I see a human being laying on the roadside as I live here today, I should call the EMS to come and provide emergency service. When we don't speak up because we are afraid of what may happen to us, we allow organizations to implode and to go down in flames, thinking we are not going to be part of the inferno. And we are. We are feeding alligators, and we are hoping that they will not bite us. Yes, they will. An alligator doesn't give a crap about whether you give it a fish or a piece of meat. If it sees you, you are its meat. And so we have a responsibility to speak up when we see things. And again, I want to conclude on the part that everybody stood by and watched the party going down, and they did nothing. Whether it is because they believe in one person or whatever they did nothing. And those who spoke out were ridiculed, derided, called names, caricatured because they spoke out. If you put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burnt. And that's what happened last night. The Philippi administration proved to St. Lucia, the region, and the world that what it is doing is working for St. Lucia. And the people here in St. Lucia said, yes, we will give you 5 more years because it's working. And I joined them in saying, yes, it is working.
Or as Donald Trump would say, to finish the job.
To finish the job. To finish the job. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Elwin. Well, just a final question. Maybe you may choose not to answer, but what moving forward for you now? What can we expect? Apart from you doing the usual presentations, we expect you to do that. But in terms of your career, your future, where do you see yourself?
I see myself as being a contributor to St. Lucia's advancement. I cannot tell you I'll be sweeping the floor, I'll be painting the wall. But I'm not going anywhere. So I see myself as a contributor to the advancement of St. Lucia. And time will tell what that looks like. But I want to contribute, I want to participate. I believe that I can, in some small way, help, and that's what I plan to do. I am not trying to be prime minister. I suspended my campaign. The egotistical guy suspended his campaign and partnered in a secondary role, maybe not even in a secondary role, in a supportive role. So that's how I see myself. I see myself as being able to make a contribution to the overall development and advancement of St. Lucia.
Final question. Any advice to Alan Chasney? Any advice to Philip J. Pierre?
I will not advise Mr. Chasney. I will say something to Prime Minister Pierre. The win last night is symptomatic of the people's trust in him as a leader and in the St. Lucia Labour Party. Protect and preserve that trust.
Well said.
Thank you.
Mr. Elwin, it has been a pleasure having you on Rev-Up. Our relationship go back a long way.
A long way.
And it's amazing how things work out. When we first spoke, it was something totally different.
Yes.
And now I guess people move on. and people change, people think differently, and now you approaching life in a different direction.
Sure.
So I hope this is not your last time that you're going to be here with us, and that moving forward you promise to be a perpetual friend of Rev-Up St. Lucia.
If the Lord wills it, my friend, He gives me life and health, I will be here many more times. And I will always be a friend of Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elwin. So this has been a very interesting and different hard drive for today with Mr. Elwin St. Rose. He's a former independent candidate for ancillary canneries. So, Mr. St. Rose, thank you so much. Have yourself a great day.
And you do the same, my friend, and we will always be in touch.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Hard drive brought to you the compliments of Rambali's Funeral Parlor.
Rambali's Funeral Parlor, we strive to bring you and your family the highest level of comfort, absolute satisfaction.